Hey, what's going on YouTube? It is a random Saturday, and there's been a lot of stuff going on over the past couple of days that I thought would be useful for us to talk about it. In case you've been living under a rock or just did not need help with this week's content because there was so much of it and it was really, really complicated, and maybe missed his video where he talked about an issue that we're going to be kind of focusing on a little bit today in this video. Sinzar had some commentary about, Masters crowns and some differences between JP and Global, and I thought it would be interesting for us to talk about, what those differences are between Global and JP, and then ask a bigger question of like, does that really matter? So I'll just go ahead and say that, Sinzar and I kind of approach the game in some different ways. We kind of have some different perspectives, and so I thought it would be neat to kind of bounce ideas off each other and try and talk a little bit about that. So Sinzar, very thankful that you took some time out of your Saturday to have a chat. Always good to have you on.
Sure thing. Thanks for inviting me to talk. And yeah, this should be pretty interesting to discuss.
Yeah, so I mean, you've played both Global and JP. Obviously, you've done content for both. So what would you say like the biggest differences, other than just like the existence of, global units? What would you say the biggest differences are between Global and JP?
Well, the biggest differences, other than some, things that aren't really that big a deal, like different event structuring and stuff, like, JP does like 3 events a month at 10 days apart, stuff like that. That's kind of whatever, just small things. The biggest thing would be, I would say, differences in unit quality. I don't mean specifically global exclusives. I just mean the actual design of units. That's probably the biggest major difference, I would say, if someone that's played global forever would go and start playing JP, and they'd realize like the units are very different. Each unit is more specialized and narrow, instead of global usually having one unit that can do a lot of roles at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So just as an example, like I'm thinking of, like a breaker, so like a breaker like Blades of Black Flame Reagan compared to like a global breaker like Tidebringer Kaito, where in Clash of Wills, Kaito can break every element, can break every important stat. He can do a bunch of neat kinds of things on top of it. He's got unique niche utility. He's got killer buffs built into his kit. He can technically do damage, but not very much. And then Blades of Black Flame Reagan, he does his breaks and he does his damage, and that's about it.
Pretty much, yeah. And like, just to really drive home the point, Kaito also has, AoE Mirage, AoE Imbue, AoE Amplify, AoE Killers, AoE Mitigation buffs. He has the buff removal, the buff extension, like this, like it's night and day, just comparing those two. And that's just like, you chose a highly specialized unit to point out, which is Kaito, because he's like all for breaking. But someone, for example, like a better, I would say, just to demonstrate the wideness of a kit, is like Richt.
Oh, yeah.
Richt is like nearly as good of a breaker as Reagan. He's literally only got 1% weaker breaks, but he just does so much other stuff, whereas Reagan is, like you said, very specialized. But the thing is, Reagan's really good at what he does. Mm-hmm. Like, he's, very, very decent damage, as well as the good 89 breaks and the good in perils and all that. So that's kind of the thing, is JP units are in general more specialized, but usually good at their one specific specialty, whereas global units sometimes, there's different levels of quality. Some are really good at what they do plus other stuff, others are just not good, period. I mean, there are a few duds on global too.
So obviously unit differences and unit design differences. But what else really is there?
Well, there's also the major differences in like banner structure. That's one that comes up a whole lot. And this is one thing I never chime in on, or I never like agree with, I should say, is because I do play both, and I realize that this is not really a thing. A lot of players that don't play JP will, for example, see that JP mails out astronomically more lapis than global does. Like, people see my JP, like, you've got so much lapis on JP, you must be a huge whale. I'm like, no, I'm actually literally 100% free to play on JP. I do spend on global, I don't spend on JP, and I've got that much because they mail out a bunch. The counterpoint is things on JP are overall way more expensive. So they mail out more, but things generally cost more. Like they don't have pity on some banners. The pities they do have are usually a lot higher price, like 60,000 for a non-premium, stuff like that. The banners are usually worse. There are, again, some differences. You know, people usually cherry pick the things. Like, for example, JP has the premium step-ups, which I would say are better than Global. It's 30K for like a bunch of guaranteeds, and you get high chances of the premium. That's overall better than Global. On the other hand, there's no pity. So if you don't get it, you can walk away with nothing. Whereas on Global, you can always walk away with the unit no matter what if you go far enough.
Isn't there also something about like the availability of their fragments?
Yes, that is another pretty major change. Okay, so JP mails out, or not mails out, gives you either through the event, the EX stage, the raid box, whatever, but you always get 50 unit fragments for free for every non-premium. Premiums get no fragments whatsoever for free. Non-premiums get 50 for free, and then every single unit, premium or not, as long as they're permanent units, collaborations don't count, but every permanent unit has 10 fragments per week in a shop that renews every week. That cost, oh God, I think 1,000 per 5 or 500 per 5. Oh geez, I forget how much, but it's about the same. So Global, it's 5K for 50. It's the same ratio.
Lapis,
whatever that
Lapis
is.
Though, not
Lapis.
VIP coins.
Yeah, Lapis. There are no VIP coins at all.
Okay.
And then on Global, there is the VIP coins, which we do get more fragments. You can't really call it free because it's VIP coins, and those aren't free, but it's a secondary resource you can spend for fragments on Global.
Yeah, and I mean, we do get... Lately, we're getting fewer of them, but you do get VIP coins for various things. So I guess that's, you kind of pick your poison, which one you think is better or not. But I mean, okay, so how we can upgrade units is different, like as far as like availability of fragments and like how the banner structures work. They don't get the special cards like we get.
The special like Global exclusive vision cards on a banner. No, they don't. They do have the like recently the, I'm calling them premium cards. They're the same tier of quality, but they're actually free cards on JP.
The wind and the earth thing.
Yeah, they do have that. That's actually very recent. Beforehand, the vision cards were just basically superior on Global because we had all the JP cards plus more. That's not quite the case anymore. Although I would still say Global has just dramatically higher quality of vision cards over JP.
Okay. So I guess there obviously are lots of differences, and one of the ones that I feel like comes up a lot in your videos, I know it's come up at least a couple times when you and I have done your news video together, and I feel like lately it's just kind of become kind of a meme, like what is Sinzar going to comment on as missing next is just like the events and stuff. And I guess a question that if you didn't, well, I'm not going to go there just yet. If you weren't aware of how to find that information, where can you go to get it? So like, I'm going to pop up on the screen for anybody who's never seen this for whatever reason. If you go on the wiki and you search for update schedule, you can find a list of all the events that have taken place. And this is actually what you're seeing on the screen right now is the JP version of the update schedule. It does show both the Global and the JP version. And you can see, what the events were called. In general, like when they get updated regularly, so you can see like what's actually in the event. So you can kind of get an idea of like what's coming, what to prepare for, what you might also see, but you also see like what the rewards were and what the upgrades to the units are. And so like, one of the big ones that you end up talking a lot about is like skipped leader skills. So you can see like on the screen right now, July 28th, there were a bunch of leader skills given to Daring Knight Rain and Sincere Knight Lastwell and Prompto Gladiolus Ignis Aranea. Like all these units are getting leader skills that lately we have just not been getting. Now, one could argue, does that matter? Because they're all like, 100%, 200%, whatever. But it's just missing.
Yeah, those I was more concerned about in the very beginning of leader skill era, like when we first got Deoxys and Ibarra, because there was like
Nothing.
no alternatives really, because they had either delayed or skipped some of the early free leader skills. I don't really bring that up anymore because at this point, like you say, now everyone's got a leader skill. So if we're skipping one for Rydia, it's super who cares. That only mattered in the very beginning when they delayed leader skills, because if you didn't have Ibarra or Deoxys, you were supposed to be able to use like Sephiroth or Vlad, or I forget who it was, but whoever was the budget leader skill at the time, and Global skipped those or delayed those because whatever reason, people assume, I would assume too, it's because they wanted to make the paid leader skills more valuable because there's no alternatives. So that's why they didn't give you the free ones up front. These days, they still delay or even skip some of the hundreds, but at this point, no one's using the 100s, even like, new players, I would hope.
I mean, if you've got the option to run, Rain, why would you run a 100% if you could get away with it? Except for like if you're missing that element, like if you're doing like a piece of locked content that needs, like the one that comes to mind was the ice challenge a couple of weeks ago, or a month ago or so, where like the only good leader was Laswell Dark Lineage or whatever. And if you didn't, then your next best bet was going to be a 100 leader like who is it?
Physalis or something?
Physalis or Regina. They have like 100%. And so like, you were going to use that instead because you didn't have the 300% from Laswell. But I feel like that matters less and less over time. Yeah, like you said.
Yeah.
But even more than that, so you see like upgrades. I mean, rip. Xyle is on this list of units that got a leader skill. Oh gosh, that's terrible. But like you see lots of things. So like this is one that comes up a lot. So like I've got some folks that come on my live streams, and they'll say like, hey, did you see that Luna Freya got ability awakenings and crowns and stuff like that in JP? And I'll be like, yeah, I heard about it, but like I'm usually really careful not to get too excited, because a lot of times these things just end up getting skipped.
Now here's the thing that for me it's and I do realize that a lot of times I harp on, because JP got it, I think we should got it. We should get it. I can't talk.
Yeah.
So that is the reason I focus on that so much, is because in my opinion, that's like the low-hanging fruit and the easy way for Global to do it. The work's already done, the balancing has already been, I would hope, tested and been done in JP. They've decided this is a valuable upgrade and they can bring it in. So it seems to be so easy to just bring it over the already made content. Now, if Global, the whole meme, Global and JP are different games, if they wanted to do global versions of unit upgrades, I would care so much less about skipping JP upgrades if we were getting global upgrades. The difference is Global is cutting these upgrades and not replacing them. So whereas JP, every single event in JP, every single 10 days, because an event is every 10 days, they upgrade between 1, 2, and sometimes like 5 or 6 older units. Like, most of her collaboration, like Dragon Quest, got like a whole list of upgrades. But it's almost always 2. Rarely it'll be 1, but it's always at least 1. At least 1 every single event, usually 2 or 3, are getting upgrades in JP. And it keeps the game feeling, refreshing. You're bringing old units back. Most of the time, they're not meta. Sometimes they're still totally worthless, but it's still, even for that, that one player that really loves Cyan, even though his upgrades weren't good, like, it's his favorite unit. So who cares if they're not good? They're jumping for joy that their favorite unit got an upgrade. And then Global, like, skips or changes. Now, if Global was doing upgrades as well, and every single week in Global, we got 1, 2, or 3 upgrades, not even for Global exclusives, if they just did their own Global version of upgrades for older units, maybe they wanted to give, I don't know, a AoE imbue to Cyan to make him more viable or something. Something It'd be fine. I'll be right there with them. Global and JP are different games. JP gave him a modifier, Global's giving him a support kit. It's fine. We don't need the JP upgrades. The thing is, Global does nothing. Nothing. And instead we're getting zero upgrades and just no excitement, no fun. And that's why I'm like, give us something. And I feel like the super easy thing for them to do is to just copy the JP upgrades because it's already done. I would rather they go through the extra effort to give original, interesting, potentially better upgrades. That'd be great too. But I'm not trying to be unrealistic. That would be a lot of work to balance and brainstorm completely original upgrades. So just give us the JP ones. They're already done. That's where I get so hung up.
Well, and you said something when we were kind of discussing, like talking about this. You said something like they already bring over like 98% of the game. Like,
yes, because that's the thing too. A lot of people say, that they'll use like as the tagline, "We're not JP, we're a different game." And again, if they want to be a different game, be a different game. I'll be right on board with that statement. But you can't give us like exactly like I said, 98% of JP and then get this shocked expression when players expect the as is. Like you have set the standard. We are copying JP. People can stick their head in the sand and say we're not JP. We are JP. 98% of the game is the JP game. There's just very, very small differences, and when the differences are good changes, I'm all for it. For example, they've made tons of improvements to the JP game on the global side, and that's amazing. But when they do a bad change, when they change the JP thing and it's for the worse, well, of course, players are not going to be happy about that. You can't expect them to be happy that something's being made worse.
So, elephant in the room, right? Something being made worse. You've already talked a little bit about this. Silver crowns and gold crowns.
Yes, this is the most recent thing. Is this week is they have taken silver crowns and changed them into only gold crowns for global, and exactly like you said a minute ago. If we didn't know about the JP upgrades, would we still be upset? Then I say absolutely yes. Even if this was, like I suggested, some global original upgrades that had nothing to do with JP and they costed gold crowns, I would still think this is a poor decision just because gold crowns are no longer available. And before people in the comments are like, yes, you can get 1, 2, or 3 gold crowns from these sources, the gold crown income has dried up. Like, yes, there are 1 or 2 permanent sources in the game, but we're not getting them regularly week to week like we were when gold crowns were the usual upgrade source. So if they want to bring gold crowns back, they have to bring back the gold crown income as well.
So like I don't use a whole lot of mine, so I've got quite a stockpile, but not too long ago, like on a whim, I decided, you know what? I'm gonna make Whimsical Winter Tiana's intrinsic ability just to see what it's gonna do, like to get her stats higher, just to see. And like now I regret it because now it's hard. I can't replace those. I can't get them back. I'm not gonna be able to like easily just like get that get a refund on my investment, and I'm not using her. Like it was like a fun experiment, and now it's like a wasted experiment too because I haven't. You can't use her for anything. She's not a good unit. And yeah, that's a big deal. I love silver crowns. I say all the time, like when I'm doing my review, like I have this unit, so this is great that they're getting an upgrade. I'm excited to do it. Or even if I don't have the unit, I'm gonna go ahead and grab these because sooner or later I'm gonna get this unit, and then I'll be able to do something with it. Like it's lovely. But this week, having abilities that come out that are not even that impactful, that I really hope nobody has spent any gold crowns on, but I'm sure somebody has. Like, ouch.
Yeah. Like right now, you, me, most players do have a stockpile of gold crowns because we did
we play regularly and we get them.
Yeah, but if going forward, this becomes the normal, those gold crowns are going to run out because Gumi, at the very least, on this week when they introduced the reintroduction of gold crown cost, they have not added a gold crown source. Now next week, maybe the EX stage gives 2 gold crowns per level or something.
Maybe.
If that's
just communicate it.
Yeah, it's for real. And if that's the case, if they're just going back to the gold crown system and putting them into events, whatever. That's, I think, is not a better change for the better, but at the very least, it's a thought out change. They realize we're going to need a source if they're going to be a cost. So, but yeah, there's no communication. There's none this week. They just dropped this out of nowhere. And then, like, they can't be surprised that people are not happy about it.
And people definitely are. I mean, I've seen not just comments on YouTube. I've seen stuff on Reddit. I've seen stuff people have like showed up in my chat and doing it. Lots of messages in Discord, and several Discords that I'm in. Like, people are just not happy about the change.
Yeah, because I was personally looking forward to doing the upgrade for Darkfina. You know, I use her pretty often in JP, and even on Global, like, she's still one of the best Dark supports. You know, we've got Melissa, but on Dark Visions, I would argue that Darkfina usually is overall better because it's got the field, and the field is a really big deal.
Yeah. So, if you didn't know about, so like obviously gold crowns, because this is a really unique situation, but like I'm gonna go out on a limb and say like the upgrades that Cloud theoretically could have gotten this week, right? If you didn't know that existed in JP and you just loaded up the game this week and didn't get Cloud updates, like, would that really matter?
No, it wouldn't be that Cloud specifically didn't get his upgrades, but it would just be, so like there's, assuming we didn't know about JP, there's basically 2 scenarios. Either we would usually get global upgrades and we'd be fine with it, or we wouldn't. And I feel like if we just didn't get upgrades, period, which is kind of the case as it is, the game would be worse. It'd just be less fun. I feel like getting the upgrades is good, so it makes it interesting. So if we were just conditioned to never get upgrades, we wouldn't be upset about it, but I do feel like the game as a whole would be in a worse place if we just never got upgrades, period, JP or globals.
For sure. I feel like this week, if I paid no attention to what was going on in JP, and I also didn't really care that much about the news, like maybe I don't read it, maybe I just log in and play the game, right? I would say at the very least, logging in and reading the news on Thursday, when maybe I read the update patch, right? I would look at it and go, wow, this is really dull. Nothing happened this week. Like, okay, there's some upgrades to these units that I don't use. This is just not a whole lot going on this week. This is not exciting, I would say. What did you change? You added a farming event.
Yeah, the farming thing.
Yeah.
You know, if you use the auto repeat, you're done in half an hour, and that's the whole week of content.
Yeah, because even the one potentially difficult challenge, I believe you can even tank it with like 7-star Mont.
Yeah, you can use evasion and then guts on turn 2, and yeah, it's just super easy.
Yeah. So, I guess in terms of that, like just in terms of whether or not the game is exciting, has a lot going on, you know, are they paying attention to, you know, keeping things fresh and interesting and giving us options? I think it does matter. But I think that it would matter a whole lot, like people get really bent out of shape about like a specific unit not getting upgrades because maybe they planned on it or hoped for it, or like, heaven forbid, invested money trying to develop a team around a unit that they didn't know was coming, or that they thought was coming but maybe didn't. Like that's I feel like that kind of stuff would matter less if you didn't know it was coming. But
for sure, like for a perfect example is me and Bart's. Like Bart's missed his upgrades. I was personally very annoyed about this because Bart's is one of my like top favorite units.
Yeah.
And his upgrades, amusingly enough, like they're good, but they're not game-changingly meta. We're not like all of a sudden in a worse place because we don't have Bart's upgrades. It was more of like, you know, the example I gave earlier with the one person that likes science, or whatever. Like for me, that's Bart's. He's my favorite, and I was looking forward to using him. I already had planned. I literally did have planned I was gonna do like the wind trial grace with Bart's upgrades and to get a friend Bart. I was gonna use Ace of the Lead. I was like, I was just gonna use Bart's because he's my favorite, and I was looking forward to this. And them skipping Bart's upgrades, which I did know because of JP, and if I didn't know because of JP, I would have, I'd hope Bart get made better because he's pretty terrible as he was released.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't have had the expectation like it's going to be coming later. My favorite unit is finally getting his salvation. And then when they skip it, it just like, it really hurts because that was the one I had been waiting for. I had so much plans for this, and maybe I shouldn't plan things based on JP. But again, JP does exist. Global does copy 98% of JP. So it feels to me like a little ingenuine to say you just can't expect things from JP because we get almost everything from JP. It's only specific things that get changed.
It's really inconsistent what we get from JP. Like the frequency, the specifics, because sometimes things get upgrades, like the amount of stuff, like when it happens. It's hard. I would say it's really kind of reckless to make plans around what you expect JP is going to do because it's too hard to know. For me personally, I don't know how you feel about that, but I think the average person probably shouldn't pay too much attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
At least if they're trying to make plans. But then again, like it's like if I'm trying to be wise about how I use my lapis and stuff, like knowing what's coming down the pipe is good. But then you get a situation like so Bart's, right? Bart's, his main focus is wind. You're talking about trying to build this team around wind, and we don't get Bart's, but we do get Malphasy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's some of these changes do feel like they're done specifically to try to promote sales of something else because Bart is old. People already pulled for him. They're not gonna get any direct monetary value by buffing an older unit. So they skip that in order for you to pull the newer unit. That definitely feels that way a lot of times. At the same time, I feel like the game health as a whole long term suffers from this. So short term, you may boost Malphasy sales, but long term, you've got players that get frustrated, and that frustration builds over time. He probably won't mind me calling him out, but I'll give you a perfect example. A good friend of mine, Kasumi, also loves Bart's. He has been waiting for Bart's to come. He basically quit the game when Bart's didn't come. That killed the game for him. So they lost a customer and a player because of the Bart's upgrade skip. I mean, there are serious repercussions for them doing this. Like, it may not be serious in their eyes, but it does drive players away. Or maybe not immediately, but over time, this kind of frustration builds. And for each player, their threshold is different. But the more they do this, the more it builds and the more you're hitting these thresholds to make players stop playing.
Well, and there are definitely players like that who are here because their character that they like is in the game, and they even advertise that on like the App Store pages for the game. Like if you swipe through their like promo images, like their teams that they're like showcasing in these images are like, all your main character types that are all in the same party, and it's like build a team of your favorite units, but like your favorite units aren't getting taken care of. Like people who love those units and are here for those units are not having the same experience as people who just chase the meta.
Yeah, like I personally, at this point, I've kind of just accepted it, but I would so much rather, like, instead of the global exclusive being global originals, I'd much rather them buffing the classic Final Fantasy units that have all the nostalgia attached. Like, instead of using Richt, a complete nobody we've never heard of, I would have much rather be using, like, one wing Sephiroth as our brand new anniversary, and just whatever, someone that we have an attachment to from being a Final Fantasy game. I would much rather that.
Well, and he's gonna love that I'm gonna say it, but like Barry would, if he was here, he would say, if you at least gave us the companion lore to go with these characters and tell us why we should care about them, that would be something. But we're missing a lot of that too, for various reasons. So Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, what about not just replacements? So like Bart's, you could make an argument. So like we missed a wind unit, so we got a wind unit. But then there's just units that are just completely missing. So like one that I've even heard people getting really upset about would be like Cater from Type 0, like just doesn't exist. There are fewer of those that just strictly don't exist, but they're there.
Yeah, we skipped something like 14 units during the 7-star era.
Mm-hmm.
During the Neovisions era, not counting collabs we didn't get, I think Hater is literally the first one we have completely skipped. Not counting Awakenings, but just brand new units. Yeah, I think Hater's the first one, and a lot of people are speculating that the reason for that is because Cater made the Crystal team a lot better, you know, the Ace team. But again, the Crystal team are units we pulled for a month and a half ago. They're trying to push the Wind team with Malphase and the Dark Visions boss being negative 25 resist. And if we had Cater and people had pulled for her, you know, 2 weeks ago, maybe they wouldn't have needed the Wind team because Cater is an 89-90 breaker that fits into the Crystal team perfectly. She's, I guess, technically speaking, the literal best breaker in the game because no one else has 90 plus 89 except her.
Yeah.
So they just wanted to push their sales towards their brand new, just came out units instead.
But goodness sakes, what an opportunity, right? Hey, Cater's here, Malphase's here. Let's upgrade Bart's and make him fit into this, and then put a banner out for him that people would probably spend on if they didn't have him to be able to compete with the rest of the Wind team. I think people would do it if they didn't already have Bart's.
Yeah, that's actually something else that Global, they do sometimes, but they don't usually do rerun banners. It's very rare, usually only for special occasions. Like JP does reruns constantly. Like they are constantly, I think every single time a unit gets a crowns, they rerun that unit's banner. They're usually not worth pulling on because you don't want to pull for old meta, even if they're upgraded. But it gives you an option, and I'm sure some people pull on it. It's got to make a little bit of money, and it can't be like this big manpower intensive task to just stick another banner in the game.
Well, and like I've even seen, I see a lot of players in the Facebook group will be like, hey, how can I get Sephiroth right now? Like even if Sephiroth's not like useful or, you know, currently really strong or whatever, people care and people ask, like, how can I get Sephiroth? Where can I get such and such unit? And like, if they did stuff like that, there are some players who would go for it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, if you read Reddit,
even just to get a TMR or an STMR, like Sephiroth's not a great example of that, but like people who really want to get their hands on a Dark Rain TMR.
Exactly. Yeah, like on Reddit, like about once a week, there'll be a post on Reddit like, I'm a new player, I literally just downloaded this game. You know, I want to add General Celeste to my team. How do I get her? And the comments are like, sorry, but no. Just you can't.
On Reddit, no.
A 1 in 200 of 3% chance to get the unit you're looking for off banner. Like you're just not getting them. Period.
Yeah, which is a shame because I tried so hard to get Celeste for so long and just couldn't get her until finally it happened, and now it's like, well, who cares? I have Abigail EX3, you know. But like, yeah, sad times. Sad times. But that's the bigger. That was like the big one of the big issues that you brought up in your video about the crowns is that new players, you know, yes, you and I have a stockpile of crowns, but new players, you're out of luck.
Exactly. And of course, people, you know, argue there are a few permanent sources of crowns, very few, and we got a crown in the crest rewards this month. So like, we're still getting a baby trickle of crowns every now and then, but not nearly enough to be using 8 per week.
Right.
If that's going to be the standard going forward.
Right. The mindset of I'm going to upgrade everything. Like I've reached a point where I have so much Fortisight that like a new unit comes out and I get that unit. I don't even blink. I just I upgrade everything they have, even their spells, just because I have so much stuff to upgrade, you know, random things on a unit. And like, that mindset goes away with crowns at this point if they're not going to bring them back.
Yep.
So I'm back to hoarding again. They're my elixirs all over again. Oh gosh. Okay. So I guess if people are really upset about these differences, like missing units, missing events, missing content, like where is Dark Vision's Abyss, for example? Like if people are upset about this kind of stuff, or even, gosh, the one you were really excited about, the Chamber of Arms updates, like all those sites. Like, if people are legitimately upset and like are curious or care, how would you say is the best way for them to address that with the game?
I would say just add it would be the best way. But so it's a little bit of double-edged sword here, because the counterpoint people would love to throw up is we get Clash of Wills. And Clash of Wills is totally global exclusive. JP gets nothing at all like that. And it's true. Clash of Wills is, for me personally, the reason Brave Exvius is still worth playing. Like, honestly, that's really the only reason I still play Brave Exvius is Clash of Wills. Yes, we do get that once a month. It's one fight. It's a whole other topic. I feel like they've been getting less interesting lately, but that's just a different video. But yeah, we do get that. And then JP, on the other hand, will get like Dark Vision's Abyss, and JP will also get overall more special things, like, for example, the Chamber of Arms. Also, JP has gotten things like the Tower, stuff like that Global didn't ever get. So yes, overall, if we compare side by side, Global's better. We get Clash of Wills. My position is, yes, we get Clash of Wills and we skip some of it, but wouldn't it be even betterer if we got Clash of Wills and Dark Vision's Abyss? That's what I want. I want Global to be the best possible game ever by getting all of our good stuff on top of all of the cool JP stuff. And if we had everything, wouldn't it be just that much better of a game? That's my position.
Because we already get the lion's share of the units, right? We do get the combination of Global and JP units to kind of mix and match, and there are some really strong interactions that we've seen that they've had to like deal with. Yes, how could we not deal with the interaction like with Riku and Oliveira, for example, or not Oliveira, Rivera, but like that's still like a fun and exciting, interesting thing that happens as a result of us being able to merge these two things, right? So like, wouldn't it be fun to take your Clash of Wills units to the Tower? Wouldn't it be fun to take Clash of Wills units to Dark Vision's Abyss, and be able to enjoy those things together?
Exactly. Like, I was really looking forward to doing the Evil Princess trial, the Chamber of Arms thing, with our global units. Like, I already had a team built. It was going to be Richt and etc. Abigail's going to tank it. I'm good to go. And then it's like, it's not here.
Yeah,
so
that's the thing. I've used Richt for one piece of content since I've gotten him, because I just don't need him for anything. There's nothing to use him for. I've used him for last month's Clash of Wills, and that's it. Everything else, I've just been using older units.
Exactly, and that is the perfect place to to use your powerful units like that, because it is a hard content. It'll be easier on Global just by way of overall higher powered units, but it's still going to be pretty challenging, even for a player that has every unit in the game on Global. If the Princess trial comes out this coming Thursday, I guarantee you most players are not going to clear it. It's still pretty hard.
Right. I mean, players are not even clearing the weekly content, like the Determined Dagger crown fights, for players who just don't have the units that they need because the pool is so small. Like it makes it hard to do that. So let alone something like that compared to like something that has the chart for what she can do. That the Dark Princess is so big. Like, yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess then, if players are upset about it and they want to communicate that to the game, like, we're missing these things, we care about these things, do you feel like sending support tickets, or do you feel like, I don't, do you feel like there's even a way to tell them that people really, that the game even understands or appreciates?
So they've said the community members have said in the past, like Justin will frequently say on Reddit, he will reply on Reddit. Justin, the official community manager, will say, we always read all the feedback on Reddit, even if we don't respond, we're always reading it. So if you believe that, and I do believe that, but I'm sure they do read it and forward it. That's literally his job, to browse social media and send it into the team. So yes, I do think that they read it. What I personally, as a end user, would much rather is confirmation. Even something as simple as like an article in the news. We've heard your feedback about the crown change. We're discussing it with the team. Something like that, just like a pat on the back that we know we're considering it, would make me feel so much better. So, I mean, if you go on like Reddit, for example, right now, like probably 9 of 10 posts are people posting unhappiness about a various thing in the last 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And the community team does read that, so they are aware of it. But the players, most players that don't, like in the know, they don't know that they know. So they just like sit here and really apprehensive, like, does Gumi know that we're upset? Well, let me go ahead and make an even angrier post. And it's like a cycle, just making it worse because they're not addressing it.
Right.
And that's the thing. Like, players feel like they have to make more and more noise, which makes more and more people unhappy. It gets other people unhappy. It's like a self-building problem, all because they're in the dark, because the global team just, I don't want to say ignores it, but doesn't respond to it.
Well, and how much of that is that, we get the news, we get the update on Thursday, which is already like Thursday night, Friday morning for them. And like, they don't get, maybe they don't have weekend time to devote to like putting out a news bulletin or like a response or whatever, because for them it's their weekend. But like, I feel like there have been times where when something really bad was going on, they take the time to say, hey, oops, we saw this, we're dealing with it. Like there's been time. I'm thinking back to the Clash of Wills fight where you could raise the boss, right? Within a day, they put out a thing saying, hey, this is a problem. Go ahead and keep doing it. We know. Oops, our bad. We're not gonna hurt you for it. But like, that was severe enough, but not like, hey, we're completely changing the fundamental structure of how we upgrade units in this game, and people are upset about it. Like, that's not worthy of attention. I don't know. Where's the line?
Exactly. And I just for me personally, I would much rather like the community, the official community team members like Justin or Tony, to be more directly involved with the community. Now, I realize they can't make calls. They have to get approval from the people that do make the calls, Hiroki or whoever, the development team. Like, Justin can't come in and say, oh, you're unhappy about crowns, I'm going to change that. He doesn't have that authority. But at the very least, he could just be like, he could make like a Reddit post and say, the team is discussing it. And, next week we'll have information about what we're going to do. We're either going to keep it the same and just deal with it, or we're going to fix it, or we're going to add something, like not just ignoring it like it's a non-issue, which is what the current situation is.
And not just the current situation about that specific issue. I mean, we can't get through a live stream without people popping up, hey, where's Carlet? That you told us we were going to have. Where is that? Or things like that. This is not the only isolated issue in the game. I mean, I participated in a thread on Reddit just yesterday about the friends list because people are like still complaining about how friend requests don't work. And it's just like, this game's been around for 7 years. How is that still an issue? I don't know. Goofiness. Anyways, here we are. I think we've reached the end of our discussion. Is there anything else you want to throw out about differences between global and JP, and does it matter?
For me, I just want to make clear that I do think on the whole, global is significantly better than JP. And the reason I do tend to get hung up on the few things that global does worse is exactly like I said, because in my perfect utopia, global will have everything done better, and that's what I want. So when global does do, one of their 5 changes ends up being a bad change, I get hooked on that because I want them to do 5 of 5 changes being good changes. And that's why I tend to get hung up on the few things they do bad. But I do want to say, just again, on the whole, global is so much better than JP. As a player that plays both games at a decently high end, I can tell you global's better. Global is without a doubt better than JP. 100%. It's just, it can be even better than that. And that's what I want.
Yeah. Yeah. So like a lot of the things that are missing or are bad changes, you would say are like kind of just like quality of life or just options things. And like what we're missing is like, I'm not going to say it's not a big deal, but like it's not making or breaking your game. You're still playing. You're still coming in.
Exactly. Like, for example, if we had global exactly as is, and we also had the Chamber of Arms, the Princess Trial, and we had Dark Visions Abyss, and we had all the unit upgrades, I would just have nothing to complain about. I guess the only other thing would be like pricing, which is a thing, but I barely even complain about that. It's just because that's like not a quality of life thing. That's, that doesn't affect the gameplay. It's a whole different thing. But as far as gameplay goes, those are the things like unit upgrades and the little bit of skipped content we have. We actually are mostly caught up on content. It's just the Chamber of Arms and Dark Visions Abyss that we're still missing.
Okay. Cool deal. So I guess my final takeaway would be that if somebody who is in touch with or is connected to the game in any way hears this, please just communicate, promise low, deliver high, tell us what's going on. We would just like to know if this is a balanced thing. Just tell us it's a balanced thing and get on with it. Don't hide in the shadows and make us wonder, because that just makes people put on tinfoil hats and go crazy. Okay. Sinzar, thank you so much for taking almost an hour hanging out with me on a Saturday. I appreciate it.
Glad to discuss. Had fun,
guys. If you've got different opinions in the comments, please let us know. If you feel the same way, or if there's an issue that you feel like is a difference or a concern, put it in the comments. Maybe they'll see it. And you guys be good to each other. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.
Later.